everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at some stakes action this Saturday at Belmont at the Big A. Race 4 on that Saturday Aqueduct card is the Artie Schiller Stakes, going the 1 mile distance on the inner turf course for the older horses. Before we get into the handicapping, though, I want to remind everybody that you want to check out the podcast that we launched recently at DRF. It's called Off the Track. Our colleague Gino Piccola has been doing a great job getting some really interesting guests on, telling the stories of the participants in horse racing. This week, we launched a new episode featuring Ned Toffee, which is timely since Ted Noffey, the namesake, running for Spendthrift Farm. That horse cemented his status as one of the favorites for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile later this month. So stories about him and some other Spendthrift storylines with that podcast that dropped earlier this week. But plenty of interesting podcasts about jockeys, trainers, other participants on the game that you can check out on Off the Track, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. You can find it at any of those platforms. Let's take a look at the field for this Artie Schiller, Mike, and they might have to rename this race the Big Everest next year, because it feels like this horse participates in the Artie Schiller every single year. I think this is the 4th time that he's running in this race. Might not go favorite in this spot, but he definitely is one of the major players.
Yeah, no doubt. He's got speed. He really likes this turf course, and a mile is his distance. And as you mentioned, he's running this race the last 3 years, and he's won it twice. Came up a little bit short last year. He's just one of those dangerous horses every time he gets into a race, David, because he's got speed. He usually makes the lead. And when you're racing on turf in New York, the paces often aren't that fast.
Yeah, and the presence of the number 2 major dude could be a problem for him. He's a legitimate graded stakes performer, and this really is a listed stakes race where very few of them have proven their credentials at the graded stakes level, at least this year. Let's take a look at the pace projector for this Artie Schiller. As Mike was mentioning, Big Everest has a lot of early speed and seems like he should be fast enough to make the frontier, Mike. And something you know about Big Everest by this point in his career is that when he's able to make the lead through fractions that are comfortable for him, he can be pretty tough to pass.
Yeah, still a pretty dangerous horse when he gets his preferred trip, and maybe he'll get it here. You were sort of referencing there his main rival, though, Major Dude, and that horse does have a little bit of speed from the inside. I mean, he's not going to be out of there looking for the lead, I don't think, but he's going to be right up close in this race.
Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1 Lucky Score. And Mike, this is a horse that actually ran a decent race in the Breeders' Cup Mile going back to the end of 2023 at 50-1 odds. But he's been trying to get back to that 101 buyer and a performance like that ever since then. And he really hasn't gotten too close. He has gotten into some better form recently, picking up pieces in a couple of graded stakes up at Woodbine. But what I didn't like about watching those races, Mike, is that he just got badly outrun in the early stages of both of them. And that running style is probably not going to work in this race.
His running style is very problematic. And I also just feel like, your point's well taken about that Breeders' Cup a couple years ago. He also, I think he's got a grade 1 placing in the Woodbine Mile a couple years ago as well. But when you start really picking through his PPs, this horse, to me, he's a sprinter, David. He's a closing sprinter. Mm-hmm. I've got him, just some quick accounting here, and maybe it's a little bit up, but I got him trying longer than 6 furlongs 14 times in his career. He's 1 for 14 in those races. I think he's better going shorter.
The number 2 Major Dude is squarely the horse to beat in this race on the class drop. He's participated in mostly graded stakes races through his recent starts, and this is just a much softer field than when he was facing the likes of Epic Ride, Redistricting, Donegal Momentum, Brilliant Birdie. I mean, those are all legitimate grade 2, grade 3 level horses. And while he ran pretty well too back in United Nations when they tried to stretch him out to the 11 furlong distance, got a very good trip, a smart decision to send him to the front that day by Pletcher and John Velasquez. Last time out, Mike, in the mid-millions, he did not run great, but also just felt like maybe he wasn't handling that Kentucky Downs course. And I think he's run it twice and hasn't run well either time.
Yeah, those are the easiest kind of performances to forgive. I'm with you. I mean, he had a little bit of traffic early in that race, but ultimately that was a pretty clean trip for him along the inside. And he just, first of all, he just never threatened, but he was probably in just way too tough anyway in a race like that. This is it's pretty obvious, a way better spot for this horse. I don't think he's the most reliable horse in the world. He's had his share of tougher trips. He doesn't always get out of the gate that well, but man, when he gets good trips, and I think there's a good one coming for him in here, I just feel like he might be better than these horses.
The number three, Sandpipes, is definitely coming into this race in the best form of his career off two consecutive victories at short prices over at Monmouth. We'll take a look at the most recent of those when he was a dominant winner by 3 lengths over second level allowance foes. And like this is a horse that had his fair share of trips through the early part of the year, but was kind of stuck at that first level allowance condition for a very long time. But once he broke through, it kind of felt like the light bulb went on. And you could see that in this race as he showed some nice acceleration to pull away from this field. The two horses that finished behind him here, they're okay. I think they at least validate the speed figure that he got. He's stepping way up in class here, but he might be striking while the iron's hot.
Yeah, maybe they are. I think that's a good point. And it's probably a good way to look at this horse if he's going to be around the morning line odds there, just because he did look really good winning last time. I still have my questions about what kind of field he beat in there when you start going through the PPs, and he just got such an easy trip there, sitting up on a really slow pace. But he was visually impressive. I'll be honest, David, when he finally broke through the N1X2 back, I wasn't that impressed with that win. I was way more impressed with the last one.
I should note that Lindsay Schultz, who is an underrated trainer outside of New York, hasn't shipped that many runners to NYRA, but 3 of her last 5 runners at the NYRA circuit have been winners at prices, so something to consider for Sandpipes. The number 4, Otago, is a horse that is capable of running some races that make him very competitive on occasion. His recent form, though, has to be the concern, Mike, because I believe you had a very good opinion on him when he won that cliffhanger at a price going back to the end of May. But since then, things have started to go in the wrong direction. Didn't love the trip that he got last time at Kentucky Downs, but still, I wanted to see him do a little more running in the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, listen, yeah, again, it's one of the. I'm with you that he didn't run well last time, but again, it's Kentucky Downs, and to me, they're the easiest kind of poor performances to forgive. So I'm trying not to be too hard on him for that one. His Oceanport, too bad. Didn't think he ran that well in that race either. I don't know, man. I don't have any real argument with him in this race, at least as if you're looking for horses to use underneath, because I feel like he could probably get there. I don't think I'd use him on top. Really respect this trainer, though. I do want to point that out. Kelsey Danner, she knows what she's doing.
Yes, I'll have a lot of success actually shipping to New York in stakes races on the turf. So that is the situation for Otago. The number 5, Horsepower, is a horse who does have some speed figures that make him competitive with the 2 favorites in this race, Mike. The problem is they've all come in sprint races, and really sprint races, 5 and 6 furlongs. He did try going 7 furlongs last time, albeit on a synthetic surface at Woodbine. We'll take a look at the stretch run of that Vigil Stakes, and at least a positive sign that he was able to replicate one of his better Beyer speed figures, going the longer distance. But like I said, it was a different surface. It was still a 1-turn race. Now he's got to stretch out around 2 turns. He does have some pedigree to do it, but Mike, I'm always just a little skeptical of these types that have been sprinters for their entire careers and then try to stretch out late in their 4-year-old season.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I just feel like there's too much working against this horse for me to get very excited about him, particularly if he's going to be bet along the morning line. That's just not a price that I would take on him at 6-1. He ran fine last time. The winner of that race, I think, is really good. But this horse got a really good trip in that race, and he didn't even come close to really making it a serious race in that.
As Mike noted earlier, the number 6 Big Everest has been effective in this race over the past 3 years, 2 wins at a second. We'll see if he can get back into the exacta once again in the Artie Schiller. But Mike, his 2025 campaign, it's been a little bit up and down. He hasn't necessarily shown the same brilliance that we've seen from him in some prior years. And this is a horse that has rebounded from poor efforts in the past, but his most recent effort was pretty disappointing. I didn't love the ride or trip that he got because it felt like Paco Lopez came out of the gate with the preconceived plan to rate him. And that can always be a dicey proposition for Big Everest. Sometimes he presents those rating tactics and it just completely backfired last time. I think the best thing you can say about him is he's getting back to Aqueduct, where he has run almost all of his best races.
Exactly. He really, he does, for whatever reason, likes this turf course. And he's supposed to make the early lead in here. I mean, we'll see how it all plays out. So those are the positives with him. I'm kind of with you, though. I don't feel like his form so far as a 7-year-old is really, up to his standards. I think he's been way better in the past. Even the win 2 starts back at Saratoga, man. He held on in that race after sort of getting control. And I don't think he walked on the lead that day either. So maybe get some extra credit, but go pull the PPs of the horse who was second in there, Nelson Avenue. First of all, I don't know that he's that good anyway, but he's certainly not a turf horse. And Big Everest was kind of life and death to hold him off.
Yeah, I'm sure you remember, Mike. That was a weird race to handicap at Saratoga because it was like Big Everest and a bunch of dirt horses running on the turf. So that race does not look quite as good when you dig through the past performances, something you can do using your DRF formulator PPs. Let's go to our picks for this Artie Schiller Stakes, Mike. And I think we're going to be pretty much in agreement here, not trying to beat the favorite Major Dude, as it looks like we've got the exact same superfecta in this race.
Yeah, I guess the idea that maybe we both had the same idea. My idea was that I prefer Major Dude to Big Everest as the two favorites go. So maybe you try to beat them, or try to beat Big Everest rather, instead of trying to beat Major Dude. At least that's how I would play it and try to get Sandpipes in there.
Yeah, Sandpipes feels like the now horse, maybe one you can catch at a price that could outrun his odds if some others underperform in this race. We both put him second to the number 2 Major Dude in the Artie Schiller Stakes on Saturday at Belmont at the Big A. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.